Recording in progress.
All right, good morning, everybody. It is August 6th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Harney County Court regular session is now in session. And for the record, Commissioner Doro will be absent today. Quorum exists with Commissioner Frank and myself. If you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Vouchers, late items, any late items for agenda?
Oh, sir.
The only thing, late item, we have it on here for discussion. But the Division 512 comments, do we want to make that an actual agenda item? To discuss so that we can get that finalized and.
It's on new business on mine, is it not?
Was it? Old business, new business. Okay, my bad.
Yeah,
I
we
was
want
thinking it
to
was under comments.
action on that.
Yes, okay. Excuse me, disregard that then. Looks good. So no late items?
No, sir.
Okay. Agenda approval.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second. Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. Minutes, we have minutes from regular county court session, July 16th, 2025. Any amendments or changes or discussion?
No, I move to approve the minutes from July 16th.
I'll second, and a motion has been made and seconded to approve Harney County Court regular session minutes from July 16th, 2025. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, hearing none, motion carries. Opportunity for public comment. Is there anybody in attendance that would like to address the county court? Please state your name.
My name is Barbara Kennedy, and for the sake of the record and transparency, I have a question for Representative Owens, and I didn't know if I should submit it now or after he speaks.
Well, it's public comment for public comment to the court. Mr. Owens wants to entertain questions during his session. We'll take care of it then. Is that okay?
I don't have an answer though, right?
That's entirely up to you.
No problem.
Okay, so we'll get to that one during his session then.
Okay.
Any other public comments? All right, not seeing any. Move on. And that takes us into the update from Representative Owens.
Where would you like me, Judge Art?
How's that? Yeah. Up front somewhere along here, whatever, just so the camera can
I hear you.
key into you a little bit better. Yeah, that's fine.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Thank
Good
you.
morning all. What would you like at it today?
I think maybe a general high points of the legislative session. And I think there's probably questions by people of Harney County. They may have heard you speak on the radio already and whatnot, but just for the record, maybe on the ODOT budget situation. And anything Commissioner Frank might think of?
I'd like to hear on the transportation package.
I'll just go through a brief overview of how the session went. And then we can talk about a few bills of interest. And then we can focus on ODOT. And I'm fine taking questions at any time. If we don't cover the subject during the bar, just ask me. Or anybody else. Cool. Odd years are the long session. And so we just finished a long session. It's approximately 165 days, went from January 21st to June 27th, and we sine died or we adjourned at 11:15. Typically, the long sessions that I've been involved in before, the speakers of the House, the Senate President has taken a large ticket items and brought them forward. But this last year, we have new leadership in the House. Representative Julie Fahey is the speaker. This is her first term as speaker. We have Senator Rob over at the Senate President. This is only his second term, and he's still working through his liberal counterparts to his moderate Ds and trying to figure out how he can appease all of them.
As Senator Wagner.
Yeah, Rob Wagner. So there is definitely a leadership void compared to what there had been. When now Attorney General Speaker Dan Rayfield was there, we took on the CHIPS Acts, we took on a lot of packages in the first 30, 60 days. And typically it's best to take on the large or the political items first because it's the honeymoon period. The social bills haven't come up, the gun bills haven't come up, the things that cause us to split and have tougher conversations aren't there yet. Everybody's in a better mood when they've only been there 60 days instead of being there 160 days. But that didn't occur. And also during session, there's typically some timelines, first chamber deadline, second chamber deadline, where things start to time out and disappear. So they don't make it through a policy committee by a certain date, they're done. We don't have to worry about that conversation coming. But what we saw during those periods of time is those bills got kicked to a non-policy committee that didn't have those deadlines. They got kicked to rules, they got kicked to a joint committee, they got kicked to revenue. So they stayed alive for a long period of time, which was tough. We dealt with 2,037 House bills. No person singly can understand 2,037 House bills. Period. It's too many. We need to figure out how we can have good limitations on bills. We dealt with 1,267, or the Senate dealt with 1,267 Senate bills for a total of 3,304 bills, 156 resolution and memorials. 640 of those went to the governor for her signature. And she's vetoed away a couple at this time. When you're in that situation, you focus on the bills that come to your policy committee. You focus on the relationships that you have in that bill. So when you're going onto the floor or after a bill has made it through a committee that you're not on, you're listening to those who you respect and those that you trust. And some of those, fortunately for me, aren't just Republicans, they're Democrats too. And you're trying to figure out what policy decision you're going to make as that bill moves forward. A whole heck of a lot of bills. The interesting thing about this session also was that the last revenue forecast that I think came out in May actually had a reduced forecast of over $500 million compared to the previous revenue forecast. So those that decide where the money is spent had pretty much already allocated that funding. When that revenue forecast came in 500 million less, they had to figure out where were they going to make cuts or what other priorities were they not going to fund. And that took a lot of oxygen out of the room. Even though it was a $500 million reduction in revenue forecast, it was still a 12 to 13% revenue increase from the previous biennium. So continuing service level, where you have an agency budget that continues to add on the pay increases and all those extras, should have been and still was covered. So there was enough funding to put out a continuing service level budget on every agency. But there wasn't a whole lot of funding at the end to do capital construction projects, do priorities on policy bills. So any policy bill that has a fiscal to it goes to Ways and Means. They sit down in Ways and Means until the last revenue forecast, and if there's additional funding available, that policy with that cost sometimes can go through. But when you have a $500 million shortfall, most of everything that ended up in Ways and Means did not end up going through. So that was tough. Any questions on that? We can make this interactive. Any questions in the audience?
Was the federal government the reason for the revenue shortfall?
It was not, Kelly. We're just now learning what's the big beautiful bill, and that is, I read an article, probably you did too, that it's going to cost close to $1 billion. But there was a concern, a rational concern about the federal nexus with the budget and what it would do. But by the time the revenue forecast came out, none of that had been decided. It was just strictly revenue that was going to come in from personal income tax, corporate income tax, and fees and others associated. So my thought, it was a downturn of the economy that caused the revenue forecast to be less than what it was previous. It didn't have the federal nexus. Now we're learning the federal nexus, and that'll be an interesting conversation going forward.
Based on those personal and corporate, income taxes, you know, the rumor around the state is that businesses are leaving the state. Is that having an effect on our budget?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I know it would, but is that accurate to say that that is?
It is accurate. It is, I mean, Oregon's tax code is different than any other state, mainly because it doesn't have a sales tax. But Oregon, in my opinion, is not very business friendly. And so with the policy, regulation and taxation, a lot of our companies are looking to go elsewhere. Prime example is Dutch Brothers. I mean, they're moving to Arizona. Why are they moving to Arizona? Well, they grew up in Oregon. It's not because they really want to leave Oregon. It's because of the tax code. But that's, yeah, it is definitely having an effect. Some of the successes that we have in bills at my office, and Stacy's online. Stacy's my chief of staff. I don't get anything done without her. She tells me where I'm supposed to be, who I'm supposed to be with, and sometimes even gives me a hint on what I'm supposed to be talking about. So it is a team effort. And Harmony Burright too works on water with me. But we had some good successes on some bills that were important, I think, to Lower East Oregon. One of them was House Bill 3349. So our Rangeland Fire Protection Association. As you guys and gals know, that our fire season in 2024, we burned up 1.9 million acres. Without those first responders, which what I call them, what the RFP is, that would have been far, far worse. The amount of rangeland that burned up was more than 50% of the total fire. Without them, I don't know how that would have got. Oregon does a bad job of supporting those men and women. Some of those RFP budgets, literally, Darren, what's the budget of Crane?
Budget Crane? About 32,000.
And how many times do you guys individually have to figure out where to fill up the diesel? How do you get the tires for the Humvees? What type of radios?
We have a major fire. We went through almost $20,000 worth of tires and repairs last year.
And that is one of the bigger budgets I've heard. I haven't heard of RFPs with $11,000 budget. We don't give them the funding in order to do tires, fuel, PPE, radios, and just the small basic stuff that they need. What this bill did is it allowed ODF, Oregon Department of Forestry, to give their surplus equipment now to RFPAs. Before they couldn't. They had to go to the GSA auctions, and RFPAs couldn't even get the surplus equipment from the state. All the equipment they got, mainly is federal government surplus. So now ODF has a commitment to provide them some of their surplus equipment or used equipment. We capitalized it with $1 million, so some of the budgets can go up. Hopefully there's enough money for tires, fuel, radios, PPE, and those men and women go out and protect our communities. They don't want to be firefighters. If they want to be firefighters, they'd go be a firefighter. They want to be the rancher, the farmer, the school worker, the maintenance, the person that's out helping our community. This is a little thing that we could help. And just to say, with the budget revenue forecast, I would not have been successful getting $1 million except that Governor Kotek supported it. She actually came out publicly, and it was the only thing that she said that she supported that was not in her governor requested budget. Why was that? She came out during the fire season in 24. We sat down in the Pine Room with 5 to 6 people. We had Allison Raver in there, one of the RFPA coordinators. And she took that and said, I want to figure out how to support them. So she helped us get that done, which was a good thing. House Bill 3372. So this one was an interesting one. This was the exempt well expansion, I would say. I met with Hydrogen Partnership and a food resilience group. Sorry to Rob's wife that I just butchered, whatever that group is that she runs with the Hydrogen Partnership. Do you know actually the name, Commissioner?
The food systems instability, maybe?
Maybe both butchered it now, so we're both in trouble. But Hydrogen Partners has this food resiliency, and they got some funding from the state that they've been going out to people in the community and say, how can we help you grow vegetables, grow products for farmers markets, for food bank, and start taking care of this food desert in this area? So they gave grants out to people to do this, which was good. But what we learned is sometime in the fall of 2023, Oregon Water Resource Department started going to farmers markets, asking people that were selling that zucchini, do you have a water right? Well, I got a well. So I just live in the acre lot and I'm taking some stuff to the farmer's market. Well, do you have a water right? Most people don't have a water right if they don't own a farm. And so they said, well, you can't grow anything for commercial activity. Even cut flowers if you're selling them on the sidewalk, or a pumpkin that you're taking to the farmer's market, let's have water in it. So they started to tell them to cease and desist or they were gonna find them. So I met with that group and I said, they're gonna take care of this in the Senate. I will follow it, I'll be involved, I'll try to help shepherd it. Well, lo and below it blew up in the Senate. They couldn't get it. Senator Golden, who's the chair of the Natural Resource Committee in the Senate, said, I'm done. We can't get the farmers together, we can't get the farm groups together, we can't get the conservationists together, it's a mess. I said, okay, because I made a commitment to that group, I said, I'll get involved. I worked with my co-chair of the Ag Natural Resource, Ag and everything else committee. We put a bill forward, we messed up a little bit, we put another bill forward. And we were successful in passing it. So it passed out of the House, passed out of the Senate, the governor signed. So you might ask, what is it? So the exempt statute prior to this bill allowed a domestic well to use 15,000 gallons a day for potable use. Allowed them to irrigate a half acre of lawn, the amount of water, half acre of non-commercial garden, any amount of water, and a 5,000 gallon commercial exemption. But the commercial exemption didn't allow irrigation of fruits and vegetables, cut flowers, because it said non-commercial garden. That's actually a lot of water. What we did in order to try to appease people, we said, now you can irrigate a half acre of lawn, a half acre of garden, whether it's commercial or non-commercial, but you are limited to 3,000 gallons a day. There's no ecological evapotranspiration reason to use more than 3,000 gallons on half acre. So now you can grow foods and take them to the farmer market. You can grow cut flowers and you can start to work with these systems up. We could talk more on that one. It was one of those that Farm Bureau was against and Water Watch was against. So even though we passed the bill, typically those that don't agree that they didn't like it. And they fought against it, but we were able to get it done. Wolf compensation, I'll give a shout out to Senator Todd Nash. It was a freshman county commissioner with me in 2017. Farm Enterprise, is a freshman year, worked on Senate Bill 777, which changed the wolf compensation program to have a multiplier effect. So if you have a confirmed kill, you can get more than what the value of this individual cap is. That allows the farmers and ranchers actually to maybe utilize the program. It allows for a lot of the ones that you're not going to get a confirmed kill on. It allows a lot of the PTSD, the calving rates, the inception rates. He was very successful. Came over to the House side, because once it passed to the Senate, it has to come to the House, came to our committee. The year before, the speaker told us not to move that bill. 2 years before the long session, different speaker told us not to move that same bill. Because environmental groups put it on their number one hit list. When it came to the House this side, I sat down with Representative Fahey, Speaker Fahey, and Representative Kell and said, don't ask us not to do that. Because it's gonna put us in a very bad position. Because we have the votes in committee, and we're gonna move it. And if you ask us not to, and I do it, I will no longer be a co-chair. And she said, okay. And she didn't ask us not to do it. Got it out of committee, got it in the House, and it was a good success. House Bill 2332, air curtains. So if you were going to set up an air incinerator up in the forest to take biomass and try to make it into biochar, the DEQ is requiring you to get a Title V air quality permit. There are about 101 Title V air quality permits in the state of Oregon because they're the biggest emitters in the state. Some of these permits cost tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars to renew. Well, ridiculous. We were able to change that law, take it down. They don't need a Title V. They still got to go get a permit. They still got to show that they're, not polluting, but we were able to work through that. How much time have I got? I got an hour?
Whatever you need, sir.
There was other bills that were success, but a death certificate bill, House Bill 3172. Kelly, correct me if I say anything wrong here. So 84% of death certificates had been reported to the electronic system. So that families in need could get the death certificate returned sometimes in 48 to 72 hours. But if you had not very many deaths in a current hospital or an area, you didn't have to use the electronic form. Now in 2026, you're going to have to use electronic form. Because if you use the mail-in form, sometimes families will wait 4 to 6 weeks before they get the death certificate back. And anybody that has gone through that grieving process knows you can't do anything until you get the death certificate back. Passed the House unanimously, went into the Senate, and one of the senators on the Health Committee stopped her. She didn't like it. She thought those people should still have the option not to have to use it. And so she was gonna kill the bill. The Senate Healthcare chair got a hold of me and said, Mark, we're having difficulty. We didn't move it. I said, well, what do we need to do? Because we want to delay implementation by several years to figure out how we can get the over system in order to more funding, get more training, blah, blah, blah. I was opposed to it, but I knew the bill was gonna die if we didn't do something. So we made a couple amendments. They passed one of the amendments. And I talked to Representative Rob Wagner, who is the chair of the healthcare and helped me on the health side. He said, it's gonna pass out of the Senate, then it has to come back over to the House because it got amended, it got changed. We have to go for concurrence. We have to agree to the changes. I said, don't agree. When it comes to the floor, don't agree. And if you don't agree when it comes back to the floor, then you go into a conference committee. I said, put me on the conference committee and we'll see what we can do. He said, okay. We told the speaker what we could do. It came back over. We didn't agree. Went to a conference committee. They put me as the chair of the conference committee. First time a Republican's been chair of a conference committee in over a decade. And we rolled the Senate. We went back to the House bill and it passed. So that was actually a fun one too. Transportation.
Maybe before we dive into that, what happened with the fair bill that was gonna remove the cap off the 1% of lottery gains? Cause I thought that was over the line.
So it was not in a committee near me. When I say that, so it's not in one of the committees that I was in. There's been an attempt many years in order to increase lottery funds to 1%, which is actually statutory required to go to fairs. But when something's statutory required, sometimes it doesn't happen. We've learned. Leadership, opposition, fairs are not a priority of the people that have the purse strings. They would rather use lottery funds for their things. That's the short answer, but it's the truth. Not very many of your representatives, when you start to have, 6, 8 representatives in a county, then maybe you've only gone to one county fair the whole time. They don't understand what that county means to some of our smaller districts. I mean, you have myself, who is a representative that has 5 county fairs. So it's a number game, but it's a priority, and it's not a priority for the majority of the representative centers to fairly or equitably fund county fairs.
How about the TLT tax redistribution? I think it's 70-30.
So there was 2 TLT tax bills out there. One of them was the Representative Cyrus Javity, which would allow a different split for the tax to come in so that the counties could use some of it for law enforcement or have a little bit more discretion. Made it out of the House, edited the Senate. At the same time, I've been working with Senator Nash and Representative Ken Helm to increase the TLT tax by 1.5% in order to fully fund the wolf compensation program and fully fund some of the wildlife services that we need. That made it out of the House too. And they both entered the Senate. We thought they were both going to go to the Revenue Committee on the Senate side. The 70-30 split made it out of the House at 84, went to the Revenue Committee. Then the chair of the Revenue Committee on the Senate side is Senator Martin. It was the same time that the transportation package came down. And he was opposed to the transportation package. And then apparently he became too opposed to the TLT tax, and he said he was gonna kill it. We're not going to, we're not able for it. Then he ended up not showing up for a while, so politics got in the way. And then the one that would increase TLT to 1.5, but not done a redistribution, we had the votes to get it out of the Revenue Committee on the Senate side because we knew where it was going, so we'd done our work. And we had the votes to get out of the Senate, but because the hiccup with Senator Meek, we diverted it to rules. Rules of Political Committee. Some of my friends and colleagues, the Republicans, put a minority report on it at timed out. So those got involved in some politics.
On the one that basically was just asking for redistribution, I think there was one proposal for flipping it. What was the opposition to allowing more public safety, because I think it's 70-30 tourism, economic development and public safety, isn't it? Is that the split, something like that?
Oregon Restaurant Lodging Association is very, very protective of the TLT tax. They have fought for a decade to make sure that no allocation is supposed to occur. They honestly feel, and even our chamber here, and all my chambers, I got a lot of emails, don't support this, Mark. Tourism is important. The money that we use for advertisement, tourism is needed. If you take that money from us, tourism is going to go down, revenue will go down. That's their message and they're sticking to it. But any questions, yes, Bart?
Yeah, the governor I have two questions, but the governor just signed a bill concerning school accountability for the students, okay? Does that affect Harney County or are we exempt because our schools are so small?
If, I can't remember the bill number, I believe I voted no on the bill, actually, not because I don't think we need to improve our education system in Oregon. But I do believe our administrators, our principals are overburdened with the amount of reporting they already have to do. There's a disconnect there. There's a disconnect between our small schools, maybe our large schools, but there is no school that was exempt for that bill.
Okay.
You know, we could talk a lot on education, but to me, it was more paperwork and forms and not actually trying to go in and figure out what does a kiddo need, what does that teacher need, what does that school need. Sometimes we get overburdened with requirements and just trying to figure out how to help people do good things. That bill wasn't, in my opinion, wasn't in that. Figure out how to help people do those things. Your second question was,
Well,
is it on topic?
no, it's not a legislative action.
Okay,
This is my original question.
let's wait till we get through the legislative.
Okay.
Any other questions on any bills? Kelly, anything? Oh, Rick? Steve? No. Alright. ODOT. Transportation package. Like we said at the beginning, typically the big ticket items in a session come up first that are important to all Oregon governments. I feel that maintenance and equity of our road infrastructure is one of the most important things the government should do. Period. Having good, viable roads that are maintained is important. It's safety. It's what we need to focus on. Unfortunately, the transportation package didn't roll out till 21 days before session ended. House Bill 2025. And it was a $15 billion revenue increase. A lot more taxes, but that was over a decade. So when you divide 15 by 10, it's not as sticker shock. It was going to increase gas tax by 6 cents. It was going to basically double registration fees. It was going to increase the payroll tax, double the payroll tax that the individual pays, not company pays. And it was a lot of funding. The vast majority of the funding wasn't going to go to maintaining that equity infrastructure we have. It wasn't. It was going to go to new projects or projects that were promised in 2017 package to other infrastructure needs. I was a no on it. What stopped it was the modern Democrats. They decided no, because a lot of the money was going to go to $4 million a mile bike pass, $4 million a mile pedestrian pass. A lot of it was going to go 300, don't call me that, several $100 million going to TriMet. 60% of the payroll tax that you guys pay, not the employer, the employee, they're going to go to mass transit in the metro areas. A lot of those buses run with 1 or 2 people. There wasn't going to be a whole lot of accountability to it. There's my opinion, ODOT is top heavy. There's 4,000 some odd employees. So that one didn't work for them. The very last day, they brought a stopgap measure. They brought a 3%, 3-cent gas tax and said, this will just get us through. This will allow us to maintain the employees we have, do the maintenance. One of the key features to me in any gas tax is the 50-30-20 split. So of a gas tax, currently Oregon, there's 40-cent gas tax. Of that 40 cent, 50% goes to the state, 20 cents. 30% goes to the counties, 20% goes to cities. That's how our counties and cities start to scrape up enough money to maintain the roads that they have, which by mileage is more than what the state of Oregon has. That 3-cent gas tax did not have that split. It failed too. So session ends. The governor says that she's gonna start laying off ODOT employees, puts out layoff notices in a couple of weeks. 400 and some odd layoffs, a lot of them going to close stations in New Oregon, around here. Threats that we weren't gonna plow snow, weren't gonna paint white lines, weren't gonna have the maintenance. Same threats that came in a year and a half ago when they started this conversation. It's unfortunate because if House Bill 2025 would have passed, the revenue wouldn't have came in until 2026. Apparently we had enough money to keep those employees on through 2025, but now we've decided that we're going to cut them before we figure it out. What it would cost to maintain those employees without any additional revenue is $5 million a month. $5 million a month, there'd be no layoffs at ODOT. We can continue to maintain the services we have. There is a couple $100 million in e-board. We could have met an e-board can meet during non-session times and allocate funding. So we could have got together, we could have kicked $35 million to the e-board for ODOT. ODOT could have kicked the employees on. We could have gone to the short session in 26 and see if we could have come up with a package. But that doesn't seem to be the path forward. The governor has requested or called a special session on August 25th. The proposal now is a 6-cent gas tax, maintaining the 50-30-20 split. I could get there on just that if it was gap funding and would sunset once we figured out how we're gonna pay for transportation. Because we have to figure out how we're gonna pay for transportation, because like I said just a few minutes ago, it is one of the key things that I believe state government should do. So if it would have been gap funding to get us through to that period, I could get there. I'm not sure the majority of my community could get there. I've been asking people, getting a lot of responses. So I can't tell you how we would have voted, but then they added so much to the package that I can't get there. One, it's not gonna be sunsetted. 2, it's gonna be indexed so that agencies can get increased gas tax without coming back to the legislature. That's probably not a good thing. 3, they're gonna double the payroll tax. So they're going to, once again, put several $100 million to TriMet Metro, and it's called the STIF funding. STIF funding is important for our county. Harney Hub, that runs the public transportation here, we get about $750,000. It's important. But I don't think we need to double it. We're not doubling anything else, so why would we need to double that? So I'm not trying to say cut that funding. So the package as it is, I can't vote for it. The governor says she has the 36 votes, which would mean every Democrat would have to vote for it, no Republicans do. I don't think she does. I think there's gonna be some changes. I think before August 29th, we're gonna maybe have a reality check. All right, Mark.
Where is the money? Since the new budget year started July 1, and she's talking about keeping all these people on to August 29th at least, where is that money coming from?
It's coming from the ODOT budget, like we said previously, even if the bill would have passed, House Bill 2025, there was enough funding to keep those employees on until new revenue came in 26. So there's enough, make sure I use the correct term, surplus funding of ODOT budget to keep them on. If something is not passed, what they have said, there'll have to be more layoffs. Because if we go back to, it's costing us $5 million a month to keep those employees on. If we keep them on for another 45 days, therefore we're going to be $7.5 million more underwater. So therefore there'll have to be more cuts. So just robbing Peter to pay Paul, expecting more revenue to come in.
So then what happened to Dresden's proposal to take it from the emergency fund until they get it worked out as a stopper?
So if anything that comes from the emergency board, the presiding officers have to support, so the Speaker of the House and Senate President. And then the agency has to bring it forward to the board, and the board has to assemble. Speaker of the House, Senate President don't support it, the agency doesn't support it.
Fire?
Questions on ODOT? Rick, then Darren.
Go ahead.
Darren, then Rick.
The bridge project in Portland, that's,
Abernathy Bridge, I said that wrong, but yeah, something like that.
what's that?
Yeah,
Abernathy?
thank you.
So they can't, they're gonna proceed with it even though they know they're already short funded, correct?
Yeah, I get a lot of mine news like you guys too from Working Live and everything. The last article I read is that they found 450 million and they're proceeding with that even though they don't have the money to finish it.
But
Wait, 450 million is more than the deficit that they needed. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Right, that's what I was getting at. It's like, they would have taxed us more, but they're proceeding with something that we don't have the funding for currently.
It is, and there's some policy tweaks that would need to occur. The constitution on the road funding and the gas taxes, some go to projects, some go to maintenance, but we could have came in a special session and just changed that policy. So that funding that was set up for projects could have been used for maintenance. So was a path there also without even going to the board.
Can that happen on this next special session?
It could if the powers to be one, but it's not.
The layoffs,
Say Rick first, then Rome.
Brendo.
no, go ahead.
There's first.
No, go ahead.
The legislature got a report, about the ODOT and what they're administrating and all that kind of stuff. What'd you do with it?
What did I do with it? Look at that, we're going personal now, no. So there was some good accountability actually in House Bill 2025. And there'll be some accountability in whatever's passed in the short session. And that was the accountability was a product of that report. So there was some, I don't want to say mismanagement because I don't know. There was some, understanding, a lack of understanding about some significant funding went. There was some lack of understanding of maybe that we paid some other states far more than we should. I actually had an ODOT worker to call me that run that computer system, and talk, with autonomy that, shared some stuff. Welcome, Dr. Leaso. Commissioner Frank.
The layoffs seem to be disproportionate for regions 4 and 5. When you account for the fact that region 2 has the headquarters and would have the most personnel to choose from. So how is that going to be addressed?
So the layoffs will be averted. There'll be a funding package that makes it through. So you won't see layoffs. Why do we continue to say that the safety of rural Orca running is less important than the safety of non-rural Orcans? I don't know. I mean, what they base it on is the amount of miles traveled on a road, how much maintenance occur. So if there's, only 10 of us driving that road, we won't maintain it. We'll maintain a road that has 100 people. It's just a slap in the face.
Just food for thought. They seem to forget that, when I-84 is closed down because of weather or smoke across the highway, a lot of that traffic ends up coming right through Highway 20 to Harney County. So it's one of the primary alternatives to their major interstate. And they don't seem to put much emphasis on it or much priority on it.
I would agree. That's. Any other questions on ODOT? Then yes, Rick.
What about the governor report that was supposed to run July 31st? Have you had access to that?
I have not, but I honestly, since I got home on June 28th, I disconnected for 3 to 4 weeks and I'm just starting to play politician again. So, funding. So as we talked about the budget shortfalls, there wasn't a whole lot of funding. Harney County did extremely well. Yeah, in fact, I'll just leave it at that, did extremely well. So we're able to work with the governor again on funding for the flooding. So we got $2 million of HDS in order to support the counties of Harney, Douglas, Coors, and Curry on grants. So you go to Harney Hub now, they have some funding available if you need to do some work on your house because that flooded, there's money there. That was good. We got $3 million for the city of Burns to work through their infrastructure that Stewart needs. We were requesting 6, we did that with 3. We will go back to once they start cammering and understanding the damage that occurred and infiltration that had previously been occurred, we'll continue to fund them there. The county got $3 million in order to work through the mitigation efforts on figuring out how to keep the floodwaters from coming back. In 2018, Kleinschmidt was hired by this county court to do a study to give the top 10 things how we could prevent some of the flooding growth. So now the county court can start to continue to work with that and figure out how they could try to divert some of that water. Able to reauthorize the jail fund. That wasn't the jail fund. You want to give a little conversation on that one?
Yeah, well, and I had it on my list here to say thank you for the support on both of those topics, very much so. The money to Burns and to Harney County. I will say that it's because of the way it's funded through the sale of bonds, is it? And so those funds won't become available until late 27.
We can actually change that sale of bonds if somebody requests me to work on it.
Okay,
So we could actually come up with some cap money from this board and that could be paid back by those bonds too, if we want to.
okay, we'll talk about that then. Yeah, so the funds that were reallocated, reauthorized, I guess reauthorized is probably a better term. For the jail project in 2023, again, thanks, Representative Owens in helping to acquire those funds for the county. For the jail / justice center project that we had, looked at, county had looked at. We ended up with $3 million through OJD, Oregon Justice Department, for portions of that project that would be considered court-related services. As time went on, I was reluctant in spending those dollars in that facility over there just for the sake of spending it, when we had no other funds in sight to be able to take that project to a conclusion. So we never ended up using those funds in the Lincoln Building and for the Justice Center project. So we asked Representative Owens and the legislature to reauthorize those funds to the courthouse annex, what we officially named the courthouse annex, which is the current jail and district attorney's office, law library, and all those other facilities, 911 and everything that's in this building next door to us. So that if the language still said annex, then we could use it in the annex, what was officially designated as the annex. Again, it's part of our jail construction building project, and those elements of the jail that will be related to court services, interview rooms, video appearance rooms, and other services and functions that are related to court services. Don't have the exact language on it. I'm gonna presume it's probably pretty much the same as what it was the first time around. But we have started that project with a design build process and an architecture firm that has been awarded that contract to start getting us a new jail started. That jail is like the 50s when it was built. It doesn't allow for adequate supervision. There's a lot of liability risks that are within this current facility, and it's just a matter of time before something could possibly happen that the county maybe failed to plan for. And that's what we're doing now with the new jail, is we'll try to plan for that and have a facility that serves the needs of the criminal justice system better. So that's, I guess, yeah.
Besides that 11 million, we got a little over 2 million to Idaho Partnership for a Collaborative Center. We got $455,000 to the NRCS here for. So Harney County did very, very well. Any other questions, general comments, concern? Oh, we won't go concerns, praises. I think we can go concerns too. So. Where's your question, Barb? Come on.
Well, this goes back to the stockbrokers meeting.
Okay.
You made,
Stockbrokers meeting, Barb is talking about, I hosted 2 water meetings outside of the Water Resource Department to try to explain to our community how the allocations will occur and what the department is going to do. Stockbrokers hosted both of them, one in Crane and one here.
you made the comment that, we are paying, an attorney $640 to $680 an hour. And, I'd like to know who that attorney is and who he's representing.
So there's a group of us, farmers, ranchers that are paying this attorney. And, that's private. I'm not gonna share that. It's not part of my political, that's part of me as being a farmer.
Okay, that's interesting.
Why is that interesting?
Mhm.
If I would ask you what attorneys you had hired and what you pay for them, would you tell me in a public meeting?
Sure.
We have a little different perspective there.
All right, yeah, let's,
It's a, I'll tell you, the firm, it's Schwab, it's a wood power.
on topic and legislation representation for Representative Owens. Anybody online? Give a hand or come off mute?
Easy crowd.
Yeah. I, again, thank you very much for your representation to Harney County. It is greatly appreciated.
Thanks, judges, and thanks, Commissioner Frank. Thanks for coming down to St. Lum. Your advocacy really does help, and Commissioner Doral.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. All right,
You're not gonna stay for the rest?
I am, I'll just be right back.
Okay.
next update from the Harney County Public Health. I have
Well, I've got one, thank you.
Got one?
Kelly Singhose and Victoria, Virginia, Vicky, look.
Hold on.
Yes, please, ladies, the floor is yours.
I had to write things down because we've had a busy past 2 years. So I just wanted to go through some of the highlights. Modernization is a big topic for public health. We've just finished up a 2-year biennium, submitted a couple of deliverables, which took quite a bit of work. There's health equity assessment plan and also a climate resiliency plan. Those just were submitted by the 1st of August. The health equity assessment plan isn't quite what you would think it is. It's a living document developed to guide our work in identifying and addressing the systemic barriers and social determinants that contribute to health disparity within our frontier community. So it's really just getting in there and making sure that each of our residents are taken care of equally. So there's a lot of work that goes on through each program to make sure that that happens. And then the climate resiliency plan is just how our community deals with what's happening in smoke events, heat events, and what we can do to help take care of our communities. There's a very large modernization plan that will be due December 1st, and it will kind of be a cumulative of all of these different items. I wanted to go through and share how public health is supporting our county departments. Emergency management, we have one FTE that now assists the emergency manager. They are co-located, and I think she does a lot of support for that position. We also were able to get a new emergency trailer that will be available to our county at all times. Fully stocked with DME, damages, emergency equipment. We've got a lot of funds that have been added to that even, to kind of work on storage and that trailer. So that will be parked where it's registered to us. We have now started working with the Harney County Jail to provide medical services for the inmates. Deanna Frank goes there once a week scheduled. Our RN goes there as needed to do screening and testing. So we have supported this with a $7,000 a year grant. So our services will kind of debit out of that account so that that department does not have to pay those funds. The planning department, we support half the position in environmental health. That's a $31,000 a year support. We also support a safe drinking water program. We provide tree testing, free filters, cost sharing for whole home systems that have tested positive. Especially after the flood event, this is the funding that we used to do all of those water tests that we sent out daily. I think because of that flooding event, a lot more residents know about this new program and are utilizing it. So we're doing a lot more well water testing. So that program gets $6,000 per year. And this is now, will be the third year we've provided them. Home health is another one that we've extended into the next year. We're supporting a community health worker in exchange for evacuation binder for at-risk patients. We have found from the last two emergencies that we really needed to have go-to to grab and call and make sure our residents are evacuated and safe. And if they need help in that evacuation, they're able to do it. So home health is usually in those homes. They're gonna do the evaluation. They're gonna keep the binder updated. If we need it, we grab it and we can make some phone calls. And Hardy Hub is another program that we have extended. We utilize them as a clean air center and also the cool air center, depending on our smoke events or heat events. They provide substantial amount of support for this community in food pantry services and also during emergency services. Or they cooked a ton of food all through the last few emergencies. So we are going to try to support them with a generator that would help make sure that the food is kept safe. They're able to cook, they're able to function, and they're able to provide an evacuation section. New this year is we're supporting the Harding County Library. They're also utilized as a cooling and cleaning air center. They're gonna help us with a health library that's available to everybody and also work on adult literacy education for them.
Are those, I'm interrupt, but are all those funds through the modernization and healthcare
Yep.
funds?
Yep, and they all meet the focus of those times. Outside of the county departments, we also have other community partnerships. Hardy Hub is a department kind of the county, so I've added them in there. And
It is not.
well, yeah, right, there's one position funded, yes. So
Hardy
that's why
Hub is
they're
a
in this
nonprofit.
community, yeah. High Desert Parks and Recreation, we've used them as a cool air center, and also a equitable way for all kids and adults to get exercise programs, and access to bike helmets and car safety seats and that type of thing. High Desert Partnership, this year, we are working with their interns to support that program. They are gonna work with residents on their defensible space and assist at-risk residents to sign up for all those emergency alerts. So they found that that was a need that they needed some help with, and it also plays into our goals, and so that's how we work with supporting them for the next 2 weeks. We are part of the Hardy County Long-Term Recovery Group, working to make sure that we are ready for the next event. And also support those that still need funds to get their homes back together. So another big thing that we did was, with all the rural schools, we provided these purple air monitors, really gave us a look in all of the different communities on what our air is doing. And for them to make changes into plans if the kids are gonna be out or not. But it also just gives us a look on what the air quality is doing across our huge counties. Previously, EPA has just one little sensor that was down in, I think Washington Park. It always had an inversion. It had poor quality air. It wasn't reflective of our entire county. So we partnered, we've been able to place them so far at Crane, Druzy, Double O, Suntex. We will be working with those other counties this fall. We'll be going there to those schools again and placing some more. I've talked to Deanna a little bit. She would like to have one at the county courthouse. So I brought your guys here. They're super easy to hook up. All of the directions are there.
Do they connect wirelessly to and upload data?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Live data all the time. So you could go on Purple Air, see the map, and you can see our entire town.
Okay, thank you.
We are very active in the Harney County schools. We provide narcotin kits. Provide kind of education at their spring field day in Crane, air purifiers to all of the schools, emergency EpiPens to all the schools, provide exams, vision, hearing screening. Next week we'll be spending 2 days at Crane for 2 sports physical days with Hannah. Immunizations are always available at all these events. And then we also provide vaccines for locals when we go to all the rural schools. We've had 2 MedQuest students during the summer that they're exploring different health-related careers, and so we have them come to our clinic and learn. And again, this will be the 2nd year that we're visiting all 7 rural health schools or rural schools. Sorry. Current grants and projects, we completed new flooring. We have a new in-clinic ultrasound machine and provided training for our providers for that machine. The grants provide funding for the rural school visits. We are working with home health to do a foot clinic every Wednesday using our facilities. We are working on a new bill pay program to make it a little bit more convenient for the whole county and getting the bills paid. There's a new project management program that they're working with because we have all of these goals that we have to meet, and we have all of our small staff that do multiple things, and this is a way to organize us and organize our budgets for each of those funds. We have installed a security camera and door alarms. We have a new after-hours triage nurse advice line, and we are now working on having a podiatrist visit in our clinic every 3 months. Almost there, I promise. Just an update on EOCCO incentive measures. Last year, our payment was about 117,000. The years kind of are delayed. We'll get paid in September for meeting these measures, but we did perform the same and actually exceeded a lot of that. One of the things that we do really well is that adolescent well visits, because we do all those physicals for most of the community. But we over exceeded that by 51 students. But this is a big deal, and we have to work on that as the rural health clinic all year long to meet those measures. Another highlight is our immunization rates for our county is 75% of all 2-year-olds have an up-to-date series. It's hard to see, but if you look in that map of Oregon, we're one of the highest in all of the communities. And that's very hard for an Eastern Oregon community to do. It's, I think getting out there to all our rural communities and making immunizations accessible for those who want them has been very beneficial. A triennial review is every 3 years. We actually went through this last summer during all the wildfire things and the smoke events. So it was a little bit of strain, but I think we survived pretty well. Have an admin, civil rights, and health officers triennial review. A positive comment was Harney County Health Department is small but mighty team, deeply committed to the service they provide to the public and staff, and often wear many hats. We've helped fill multiple roles, and we had no findings. Communicable disease had 4 findings. Those were all resolved. Fiscal had 7. They were all resolved. Food, pool, and lodging had 7. We are still working on those. Immunizations. I would like to read this one. I have a positive note mentioned. Harney County has an excellent immunization program, and thanks to their hardworking and highly skilled staff. While they serve a very rural county, they have created a creative approach to getting the vaccine to their county that helps make sure there are as few barriers as possible to get vaccinated. We had 1 finding that was resolved. Public health emergency preparedness. This was when we did not have a preparedness person, and that was Vicky mostly. Positive was this team works closely with local partners, including the emergency manager, on planning. No findings. And then the TB, tuberculosis, no findings, vital records, no findings, and WIC. There were 8, those were all resolved. And again, these findings are very, very simple things sometimes, but we correct them, fix them, and move on. And just wanted to touch on the one big beautiful bill and some of those things that may reflect on our clinic. We may lose the Oregon Office of Rural Health, which has been instrumental in the rural health clinic system and supporting us. Will be a decrease in Medicaid users seeking overall care. We will see less numbers. Copay collection for Medicaid members will be sometimes $35 at each visit. That's probably going to decrease use and also increase our collection amount that we have to do to make sure that those are collected. They have to have a determination before the visit or will not be paid. A lot of time we don't worry about it. We want to get them in and get their health taken care of and worry about their OHP status later. That will not be available. They will have to be completely on board before they're seen. And this includes emergency visits. We have one assister. She's going to have to increase her time with recertifications, and she's also already seeing a less availability of OHP when she calls in for questions and responses. That's going to really increase. Additional staff time for self-pay collection efforts. Again, that's copays, additional visits with a write-off based on property. We see patients, if they are not able to pay their bill based on their income and family size, we write off bills. So that will also increase. That's what I thought. I guess on the state level, the only thing that I see so far that has been resolved was our PEP position, which is the emergency manager. Right now, they think would be decreased about 30% of that. We are already budgeted modernization to fill the gap. So far, that's all we've done.
With the modernization in healthcare dollars and, time passed with the county, the creation of the rural health clinic, the plan there and the big purpose for that, or a big portion of the reason for that, I'm not gonna say the only, was to help create that funding source, to fill the gap between county dollars and services. But with the modernization in healthcare dollars, are you still seeing that that's covering most everything, that you're not really having to rely on the RHC for much financial assistance?
Correct. We are about even every year on our budget, so it's working as well.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you for your service to the community and everything you do. I mean, there's a lot more than meets the eye.
Oh yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
And again, we're going on, I think October will be year 3 for us doing the director position as well as other positions. It's actually going really well. I think we've kind of got into a groove and kind of know what needs to happen.
Yeah.
So we haven't had any applicants, I believe, for the director position. It's probably been posted 6 months now. We'll continue to leave it open.
I was just gonna ask if you think of any other outlets to advertise that in, any other professional publications or anything where we can get it out as broad as possible.
Yes, we have shared as widely as we know, but we'll continue to try to do.
Yeah.
Again, we're a little tiny community. It's hard to get people to want to come.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about the findings for food pool and lodging that were resolved?
Yeah. Wish I had her email as a list.
Yeah. What the findings are, I think it's just because of the transition from Grant County to us. There's just things that hadn't been done that just need to be done. And we spoke to her this morning and she said that those are 100% done. She just has to report it back to the state, which I think is like not reviews, but when she goes in and she doesn't inspections that needed to be completed or re-inspected, things that just need to be followed up.
When it
So-
says, is it talking about like swimming pool? Is that what pool reference
All
is?
of those.
Yeah, restaurant, swimming pool, like
Yep.
any anything.
Yep, that's her job. Yep, she's got to do it.
And that's through our environmental health, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Even though it says pools, it's not, it's just anything that has to be inspected by her. So there's a lot of things that fall under the umbrella.
In as history, we had originally funded Grant County to provide those services to us, so they were not local. We expanded and were able to employ our own position here when that position was filled. So that's why we're able to fund that position halfway. So now it's actually here local. So that was the transition of somebody over Grant County, and they kind of did it when they could come over. And now we've got somebody local, and so the whole program has to be revamped. So we are working on it. She said this morning they were all resolved. She needs to turn them.
What vaccine is PCP?
That is pneumonia, yeah.
And then maybe my only other question on these plans that you showed us.
Yeah.
What is the impetus for having these plans? Is it to be compliant with the state standard or to allow us to apply for grants?
All of the above, for a modernization funding, they give us that money, they want to have something receivable. They want to show that we can give them and say, this is the work we've done with that funding. So that's a requirement from the state.
I thought it might be. And how much discretion do we have locally in preparing this plan? Because with the health equity plan, you said it's not what you think. Some of it is what I think. And so.
Yeah, so it's very descriptive. So we make sure that it applies to our community. Everything that we take is out there. We know and if you look in that, there's a lot of history to that because there's a whole Eastern Oregon Home Collaborative. We all work together for that plan. So we give them funding, they help work on it, but it's all Eastern Oregon. So you're gonna get in that program a lot of different information from all those communities. What we take and actually apply will be in our modernization plan, and it's in what we do in all of these different programs. So it's a huge amount of just verbiage, I think. Because we had to get that, and so we have to pare it down to that. Too. And all those programs I talk about are how we apply that.
When you made the comment, it's not what you think, and I started flipping through it. And well, I was kind of impressed in the beginning because a lot of it was addressing age and socioeconomic status.
Yeah.
But then when I got to sections that are probably pulled from other books that are breaking down privilege, and I just thought it doesn't seem appropriate.
Yeah, but that's the program itself. So it's up to us as directors to make sure that we're applying it to our. So that's the kind of why I want to talk about all those other things we do. I don't know that there will be a big shift in how the state wants modernization to be done. I mean, that's historically, but when they started it in 2017, those were kind of those priorities way back then. Obviously, there's been a shift in the climate, so it'll be interesting to see if the state also changes.
Thanks a lot. You guys been busy.
Yeah, but. Oh, and then you will get a copy of that triennial review. The state will send you a copy directly so you can review it in detail.
That's the portion of it where we went over, we were sitting in on records.
That was one of
That was one of the elements,
seven.
yeah, and they're just now finishing the report on it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
On the EOCCO incentive measures.
Yeah.
On the ones that we aren't meeting. How much discretion do we have in setting our targets? And
None.
so some of those might not be realistically attainable.
Correct.
Exactly.
I wondered about that when I looked at those.
Yep, correct.
Did I hear somebody from online?
Yes, you did. This is Susan Ramsey, and I would like to ask the ladies or make a comment. I think the presentation was great, but on the part where it's testing air quality, I think we should put one on the either end of Broadway, North Broadway. While being in town yesterday, my eyes were burning. There is so much pollutant in the air, and I'm not sure, it's probably from the work being done by the highway department, but with all the semis that basically use our main street as their only way of getting from point A to point B through Burns, do we have an air quality problem right on Broadway?
Thank you for your question. We do not have an air sensor located right there. But I have watched, and we post on our board outside of our office when it changes to a yellow or a red. This summer so far, we've not gone into the red at all. It's all been just a yellow, which is just, those are special populations, should be a little bit more careful being out in that air. The good thing is we've received 5 total of those air monitors for free. And we are working to place those amongst the county to make sure we've got a good sense of the entire county. So something on Broadway is definitely something that we can consider. And feel free always, you can just log into Purple Air and see those sensors and see what they're reading. And that will help with that information.
Does
I would suggest that they
Go ahead.
actually sample that, even if it's temporarily, because I think it may be the premise for basically coming up with a truck route rather than having all the semis come right down Broadway. And that's the end of my question.
I don't have any more information on that piece, but yeah, we're trying to at least get some more data out there.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
No, thanks a lot.
Anybody?
You're very well.
Thank you, ladies. Have a good day.
Do you guys want these plans back? Oh, thank you.
So next item on the agenda is an update from Eastern Oregon Workforce Board, Aaron Carpenter.
Yeah, should I move or is this okay?
If you move forward just a little bit, just so the camera
All right,
picks you up a
great.
little bit better.
Yeah, this is just kind of a quick update, sharing a little bit about what we do and how we serve Harney County so that people are aware. We're the local workforce board for Eastern Oregon. Our area is Baker, Grant, Harney, Malheur, Morrow, Umatilla, Union, and Wallowa counties. And the representatives that sort of represent your area, we have 2. The Jobs Council is one of our each county commissioners from each of our 8 counties. And then our board of directors and the commissioner for Harney County that represents on that board is Commissioner Dora. And then our board member is Martha Corrigan with Symmetry Care. So those are your 2 contacts, sort of, if you ever see anything that we do that you want to see changed, or you want to provide feedback, or you have an idea that you'd like to implement and you think some of the funding that we get might be able to help with that. Our primary goal is making sure that people are trained for jobs and good jobs in the area. So we work with Treasure Valley Community College, Baker Technical Institute, the Oregon Employment Department, and the Training Employment Consortium, who we actually contract with them. So we get funds from the federal government and the state government and some private funds, and we funnel those mostly through to the Training and Employment Consortium, and then they help pay for people's training, whatever it's from. Sometimes there's online trainings or send people to training, different things. But really the goal is just to get people good jobs in the area, because that's a part of the backbone of a healthy economy. And that is kind of the quick overview in a nutshell. We have youth programs. We have, we also work with Easter Seals, which does the over 55 program for people who want to work. But really it's all about helping people become self-sufficient. We have partners with DHS, so we work with people who are on food stamps to help them get better jobs, to get off of, that's an old term, SNAP. But anyway, so any questions, or is there anything else you'd like to know, or anything at all?
I know Commissioner Doro had been working with you guys and wanted you to come in and give an update today, and she's not available today. So I don't know if she would have had any specific topics that she wanted to cover. I know Commissioner Frank, you attended the meeting yesterday. Was there any topics or anything you want to clarify or?
One of the things, and I talked about this briefly after the meeting with Ms. Carpenter, was I noticed with the roundtable discussion we had, it seemed like there was a lot of emphasis on how to help people that are in a position that they want to better themselves, improve their job possibilities. But one of the greatest needs in Harney County right now in terms of for employers is unskilled labor, and there's a shortage of that. And so I talked to Erin about maybe getting some more information, because I think she has some ideas about some of the legislative or state policy barriers that we have to addressing that more proactively. And so I look forward to those conversations. And I can't remember Christian's position, what his title is, but he has extensive dealing with economic development. And as we have some work sessions coming up with that, we talked about it might be advantageous to invite him to those as well. And I told him to just pop it and tell Holly to add him to the list, but I don't know if she was in today. So I just wanted to bring that up. And if you have questions about what we're trying to do in those work sessions, if we need to determine if that's a better fit, I just wanted to throw it out there for consideration.
Sure. So the 14th of this month, we have a county court work session scheduled for economic development. And where we want to go with it, you know, re-identifying our priorities, what the needs are in our community for economic development, you know, on a micro scale and a macro scale and all points in between. We have lottery funds that we get from the state for economic development, and it's a matter of making those determinations and priorities as to where and how to spend those funds. You're more than welcome. Would love to have you. That's what I'm trying to do, is get everybody to come to the table that can answer the questions. One of the biggest things I'm looking at is identifying agencies and organizations that provide services that we don't then have to contract, if that's the route we decide to go, to contract with another contractor to duplicate those services that are already out there. I'd rather use the dollars for stuff that we don't get or don't have available access to. So you bet, if you have a business card by chance, or and I will have Holly reach out to you or add you to the calendar invite.
I did talk to Ms. Holly yesterday. And
Oh, you did? Okay.
I do plan on being here next week.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Well, if I could leave you with one thing, it's just, I would say, sometimes we have to get creative. And also, we have to work together. I think in rural areas, even more than other areas, we get less funding. So we have the largest workforce area of the 9 boards in Oregon, and the second to the largest funds. So I'm sure you look surprised. No, but just getting creative and really working together, reducing duplication and working together, Molly. So
you know, it's been mentioned in other presentations and whatnot this morning, and discussion this morning, our own High Desert Partnership and their collaborative efforts that they do has really created a roadmap for all. And that's what I'm trying to do really in our meeting with economic development, is bring everybody to the table that would have input to it. So that collaborative effort, we appreciate your participation.
they're an amazing partner, and we support them every chance we get.
Yeah.
Commissioner Doro speaks very highly of you and the work that she has done with the board. And I'm sorry that she couldn't be here today, because she probably could have led to a more meaningful discussion, because she's been working with you guys and knows the ins and outs. But I just wanted to.
Gives me an excuse to come back another day.
That's right.
Welcome anytime.
Do it around. To answer, I am the employer engagement coordinator for Eastern Oregon Workforce Board. So I would do anything to work with an employer, or if you want to be an employer, if there's any kind of questions, I love coming down here. My Steens, it's a beautiful, gorgeous area down here. So we do a lot with anything that's not just your workforce, but if there's anything that affects your ability to be an efficient business here in Harney County. So that's kind of a lot of what I do. I'm gonna give you a business card. I'll leave a couple extra just in case you guys know somebody that needs to talk. We'd be more than happy to work with there. I work for if you have 1 employer to 150 employees. So,
one of the things they mentioned yesterday that I thought was noteworthy for people in the room is if someone was just a sole proprietorship and one man show, and looking to expand and maybe didn't know how to manage employees, that is an area where they could reach out to you guys for assistance.
I style myself as a professional connector, so I've done a really good job of reaching across to Western Oregon. I work a lot with the Secretary of State, Small Business Office, Department of Revenue, all these other departments. They all have a ton of resources, and I've kind of collected a lot of that for you, so I'm able to share. So if you want to know more about payroll taxes, want to know more about Paid Leave Oregon, if you want to know more about if you have an issue with a state or a federal agency or any kind of business agency, there's a lot of routes to remedy a lot of stuff. And so I've done a lot of collecting of data and resources over the last couple of years.
A lot of times, those are the exact hurdles that small business owners come across and not knowing how to deal with them, so it's a good resource.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. And that's it for updates. Thank you. I'm gonna, if anybody take pictures of them or pick one up, whatever. So that's it for our updates. Next topic is old business, and I have a drought declaration and resolution still on there just to carry it forward. Our emergency manager is not available today. I looked at the map, most recent map for our drought condition, and nothing has changed over the last month. So I know that there's justification there or cause that we could make that declaration, but I'd rather myself wait until our emergency manager is available again, and then we can carry that forward to the next agenda.
I concur.
New business, library advisory board, potential appointees. The librarian is here. So I will, Cheryl, defer to you and introduce your proposed attendee or appointees.
I would like to introduce Desiree Quintanilla and Mary Kearns. They are in position, and I gave their letters of interest to Holly, so you should have those. They both came to the last board meeting, and I also have two board members here, Ramona Reback and Kate Cunningham. At the last board meeting, they were interviewed, I guess you would say, and approved as new board members, and so we just want county court to also bring them the board members.
Excuse me just a moment.
Well, I get ready for making a motion. Can I get a pronunciation on that last name?
Quintanilla.
Your response to the openings, the vacancies, did you have any other interested applicants for the positions?
We had somebody else who had expressed interest but did not submit a letter of interest.
Okay. So, so really, these are the only two that you had
The two letters.
submit letters for. Okay.
Do you only have two vacancies?
Two vacancies.
Would either of you like to say anything? I'll put you on the spot here.
Yeah, particularly.
Okay, well, thank you for your interest in wanting to serve on the, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just want to say that I want to join the advisory board because I've been looking for a way to get more involved in the local community.
Great, thank you. And again, thank you for your interest in wanting to serve and be a part of the community and the library on the advisory board. I don't have anything else, do you? Other than a motion?
I move to approve the library advisory board's recommendation to appoint Desiree Quintanilla and Mary Kearns.
And I will second. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the library board's recommendation for appointment. The library advisory board's recommendation to appoint Desiree Quintanilla and Mary Kearns as new members of the advisory board. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And no opposed, obviously, motion carries. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for your civic service.
Any? While we're kind of on the library, any updates or anything from the library?
A block party is tomorrow from 5 to 6:30. We've kind of shortened it a little bit because we cut in hours. We'll have music with the Old Time Fiddlers. We'll hope to have some food available. We'll have games for the kids and we'll be announcing the winners of the summer reading program. Who have read the most hours. And we'll also have at the very end our desert duck race. Oh, yes, and we have books.
What's a desert duck race?
Well, a duck race is normally done on a river, right? And you start all your ducks. And
Rubber
go
duck,
down-
rubber ducks.
Rubber
Yeah.
duckies, yes, not real ones. They go down the river and the first one that crosses some special line wins. Well, since we don't have a river, we close the D Street in front of the library and the fire engine, then the people come with it and they spray the ducks down the road. And the first one that crosses the line, which is a rope, wins the prize. And you can get them, you can put your own special number of duck if you want.
As I say, ducks are sponsored by individuals and organizations.
Yes.
$5 a duck.
As I say, I think maybe live ducks might even be more entertaining.
Entertaining, but.
And the PETA.
Just set them down and say, here, duck, 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 duck.
I have a thought though, Cheryl gets kind of mad at me because I think that I live near the library. And just over this summer, I mean, the participation of the community in the library, things that they have numbers for, and I don't even know what they are, and then I see all these cars and all these parents, and so. We have had a terrific attendance at all the things that library has sponsored this summer. And since the library's closed on Mondays now, I was helping at the museum club room, me and Doug Burr, and we were standing outside waiting for it to open, and it wasn't. Anyway, they were late that day, but anyway, I think, we saw like 5 cars, people get out of their cars, go to the library, and that's a lot of people that are used to going to the library on Monday. So I think it is sad that, we've had to close, but that's what we chose to do because, we don't have the money to run the library now like we did before. But, yeah, the participation is just like, I don't know, all this summer, everything's been really, the community supporting the library.
There's about 100 kids, everyone's been, we have some great programs.
Yeah, great programs. So I just wanted to toot our own horn.
Thank you, thank you. Again, thank you, ladies, for your service, your coming service. So.
Yeah.
Anything else, library?
Thank you.
All right, next topic on, new business is the Division 512 comments. So, some of you may be aware or not, but they had public comment meetings in Seneca on Tuesday. And yesterday, twice here in Burns at the community center, one 10 o'clock in the morning and one 5 o'clock in the evening. I attended yesterday evening. It was very good comments, very good. I mean, it's really tough to sit and hear some of those comments, and that the people that are making those comments are afraid for their livelihoods, afraid for their homes, afraid for the next generation of their family. I think there was some good ideas. I think there was some really good suggestions that they come out with. And if it does get to curtailment, there was, I think, some versus just across the board blanket curtailment. I think there was some good ideas on how to achieve that as well. The county, obviously being concerned for all those in the agricultural industry and even in our community, in our local municipal community of Burns and Hines. If these proposed rules go through, we'll definitely feel the hit on these reductions. For that reason, we've had county council look at it and prepare comments. Commissioner Frank has worked more closely with county council and others, picking up that ball that basically Commissioner Shellman had while she was the commissioner. So thank you, Commissioner Frank, for that. It's tough to get to all the different topics and everything that we have to deal with, and I appreciate your commitment to that. But since you have probably a broader understanding and knowledge and everything, I'm gonna defer to you at this point.
As Judge Hart said, we developed comments through our participation in the RAC meetings and attending all the public comment that took place earlier in the summer. And worked with water consultant and then passed our comments along to our legal counsel, who, I don't know, specializes might not be the right term, but has a lot of experience in natural resource and agricultural type issues. And so the proposed comments that we have are the culmination of that. The one comment that I would make is there are some parts of the proposed 512 rules that are at odds with our comprehensive plan, and most of those have been addressed in these comments. One thing that hasn't specifically been addressed is when they talk about reducing the duty from 3 acre feet to 2.5 acre feet. But as OWRD has said, and our legal counsel concurs, you get into some gray area in defining them as a right, because in the permitting process, the state has the authority to reduce it if there's not enough water to fulfill all those rights. I just wanted to say that on the record, that I do have a problem with that reduction. I understand it's to keep more farmers in business, but it's the taking of a property right, in my opinion, even though they say that's not legally defensible. But I really approve of these comments. I think they're very thorough. They cite all of the statutes and administrative rules. And I am just sorry that I didn't have them prepared for us to take action on them earlier, so that we could have had a signature sheet or community members that agree with it. I also think it's important to note, there were some comments made yesterday in public comment. And a lot of the contention around this rulemaking process has been in pitting agriculturalists against municipalities, or domestic well users against agricultural users. And in no way do we have less of a commitment to domestic wells or stock wells or commercial wells than we do the agricultural wells. And regardless of what these comments say, we will continue to work hard to make sure the rights of Harney County citizens are secured. So
So I've reviewed this, looked through the comments. And again, as somebody who hasn't been involved in the process as in depth, are these comments from our council okay to be submitted? How do you want to, I guess I'm asking for your recommendation on how would you like to see these submitted under the council's letterhead or county letterhead as is? I mean, we've submitted comments just like this before from council on their letterhead in our behalf. Is that okay this time around, or how would you like to proceed anyway differently?
I'm glad you brought that up. I reached out to our council and asked if there was a difference between submitting them on our letterhead or his letterhead, and he said there's really no difference. However, if we submit them on our legal counsel's letterhead, then they know we've had legal counsel review it and have their support. And so I would recommend that we do it on Corolla Law Group's letterhead. And I would also like to not only submit them to Kelly Mines, who is the rules coordinator for OWRD, but also the director of OWRD directly, the Water Commission members, if we can, and the governor, which would probably be through her regional coordinator. But I think, as was apparent in the public comment periods yesterday, there are some very concerning things that the RAC 512 process overlooks, and I think that needs to be brought to the attention of anyone who's willing to look. I had conversations with the water resource commissioners. I think after the 11th, they won't be able to talk with anyone that's involved, because I think there's a 30-day window before their next commission meeting, and asked if there's a direct way to send them to them. And I think there's just a one blanket email on the website, but that'll have to do.
Okay, so, Kelly Mines, you said,
Yep,
OWRD director, the governor, and who was one of them?
the Water Resource Commission and or its members. Oh yeah, we can CC Mark on that as well.
I will, scan these and get them sent off to those indicated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it, optimistically, I hope that by September 11th and 12th, when the Water Resource Commission meeting is, a lot of these comments will be moot, because the department will have incorporated these themes that were shared by the majority of community members into their rules, but you'll see.
I think probably three things that really stood out to me last night were the boundaries of and which wells and everything were included in certain sub areas. And how those boundaries may have been determined. That really stood out. Another thing that really stood out was maybe even some of the science and some of the already existing science and surveys and studies that have been done by USGS. And it doesn't seem to be in line with what the state's using for science. And just some of the arbitrariness of the proposed rules. The community is for how many years has been involved in the community-based water planning? And these rules are gonna come out and just not even consider those. So those are three of I think the biggest things that stood out to me in the comments last night.
I was really impressed, and it made me be proud to be a part of Harney County to see so many people show up. 25 to 30 people were there in the AM session, and probably 35 to 40 people there in the evening. Everyone that commented, regardless of what their perspective was, gave good, strong comments and usually offered up solutions as well. I thought it was a really good showing that our county had.
Yeah, I did too. I agree. I think it's important for anybody, the comment closing date is August 13th.
Right.
So, and it's open to anybody to make comments, to submit comments. This is not an issue that just will affect the agricultural industry or agricultural concerned individuals in our county. This will and could, well, if the proposed rules go through as they are, it will definitely affect the municipalities as well. I know there's been some concern on the domestic wells. Technically, it shouldn't affect them because they're not a water right. And this is about dealing with governing and managing water rights, not a well, not a domestic well that doesn't have water rights attached to it. But in some of the verbiage in the proposed rules, even in the one section that talks about the curtailment, it says all other water uses. So it makes me kind of concerned that doesn't leave a window open for curtailment and all other forms of water use. Is one of my brief concerns reading through the proposed rules.
I think there's another section that pretty directly exempts domestic wells and stock wells, but there is definitely some uncertainty in my mind regarding commercial use, geothermal use. There were some comments made last night about Crane School District, for example, and I'm uncertain what type of water right they have. I would assume it's a municipal permit for that well.
Quasi-municipal.
There are some uncertainties in there for sure.
Which if they fall under that, then that would fall under the municipal and quasi-municipal reductions of the highest rate for the last 5 years. basically add 10%, which is a pretty big cut. I'm extremely, just as much as I'm concerned for the future of our agricultural families, I'm as much concerned for the municipalities and what that could mean for home development and economic development, within Burns and Hines. So.
The whole intent behind that RAC 512 process and the novelty of it, which is going to set precedent for other counties, which will be entering a similar process right after we complete ours, was the state recognized the importance of getting community input. And I think it was obvious yesterday that we have a lot of good community input that either was not heeded or did not feel compelled to participate because of their perception of how it would go. And I think that that's really unfortunate. I think the intent behind that planning process was good. I think the execution was poor.
All right, so I will make sure these get forwarded off to the identified individuals and groups. Next topic is our county janitorial contract. It's due for renewal. They service all of our facilities with the exception of the road department. Over the last 2 years since we've enacted this contract, that they do a pretty good job. They've been open and receptive to any shortcomings or whatever might be the concerns of the various departments and facilities. So I would like to recommend or make a motion that we continue and extend and continue the contract with Triple R janitorial service. It has, everything is the same as the previous one, with the exception of the dollar amount. The owner asked for a 4% increase, and I told him I'd be willing to do a 3%. That's what we did for COLA, and that's about where our revenuing increases come, is about 3% rate. So I was willing to do a 3% increase.
I think one of the hard things with a contract as extensive as this is it tries to cover all the bases. But one of the things that I noticed was in the service schedules for several of the facilities, it says daily service required. And it says it includes Saturday and Sunday. And so I was just curious about that because I assume they don't really need to come and include the courthouse, for example, on Saturday and Sunday.
No, but I don't know. I don't know if that was put in there because, say, on weekends, Friday, the crew might come in on Saturday or Sunday to do their service in the courthouse instead of Friday evening. I don't know if that's why that was put in there, to allow for that flexibility.
And my main question with that was if that would affect compensation, but it sounds like this is a renewal. And the only change in compensation will be that percentage that you talked about, so. I thought it looked fine. I did see one typo, but it probably wasn't there.
Some of a portion of the cost for this is shared by other departments. The building department fund provides their share of it. Home health and hospice provides their share of it, so it doesn't all come out of general fund. And next year, if health department RHC provides their portion of it. Next year, if home health and hospice budget stays on track for where it's at, then I will shift their facility to come out of their budget as well.
And they're based out of Springfield?
The owner is. The owner of the of the businesses. When we did this, we did an RFP a couple of years ago on this, and there were only two bidders on it. One local entity that didn't have a janitorial service, but basically was gonna get into the business if they got the bid. And then, Triple R, which has done other work in the community and other facilities. And obviously all their staff is local. All their employees.
Well,
So. If there's no other concerns, I will make a motion to renew the, our contract with Triple R Investments LLC doing business as Triple R Janitorial. Effective date August 4th. 2025 through August 3rd, 2026. With the 3% increase in total, not to exceed amount. 3% increase, which is $70,143.
second,
A motion has been made and seconded to renew the Triple R janitorial contract with the county or county facilities. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And none opposed, motion carries. So dated this 6th of August 2025.
sorry to be so scatterbrained, but did we take action on the RAC 512 comments?
Just said that I would, do we need to make a motion? I didn't do a motion, we didn't do a motion, but, I just said I'll scan it and get it sent off. If we would like to do a motion, I don't know.
Yeah, if we could, I move to approve the Harney County comments on Division 512 rulemaking and submit them to OWRD, the Governor, Oregon Water Resource Commission, and Representative Mark Owens.
And Kelly Mines?
And yep, Kelly Mines with OWRD.
Okay. A motion has been made and seconded to approve and submit the comments prepared by county council in regards to the proposed Division 512 rules and submitted to Kelly Mines, OWRD, OWRD Director, the Governor, the Water Resource Commission, and CC to Representative Owens. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? And then obviously hearing none, motion carries. Okay, let's see. Next up is supplemental budget. So the treasurer is not available. It looks like it's been published that we actually go into a public hearing at 12 p.m. There are 10 minutes till for that. So let's table this for a few minutes until the clock strikes 12 in case anybody is gonna show up for that. And move on to correspondence and take care of some of this other stuff, and then we'll come back to this if that's okay.
Yes,
So that we stay on track with published times. So for correspondence, I have a letter from Malheur Forest, U.S. Forest Service, that the Malheur National Forest reduces industrial fire level precaution levels. And it looks like they have also, reduced the, public use restrictions as well. I have a letter yesterday saying that they were, moved them because of the increased precipitation and lower temperatures. They had reduced the, public use restrictions to phase A, which, basically is no restrictions. You can have a campfire. It doesn't have to be just in a recreation site. And the following acts are prohibited: building, maintaining, attending, using fire camp. So this has actually been superseded since we got this on July 22nd. They just got one the other day. I didn't get it entered in.
Oh, so they've lowered restrictions clear down to A.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, just a second, I'll pull that notice up. I didn't get it added to the. Reduces public use restrictions, the John Day, Prairie City and Hines, Oregon, due to the amount of moisture and moderating temperatures effective Wednesday, August 6th, today, at 12:01 a.m., the Malheur National Forest will move to a moderate fire danger level. The North Zone, Blue Mountain and Prairie City Ranger districts will move to a seasonal restrictions, and the South Zone Emigrant Creek Ranger District will move to Phase A. So actually, those northern districts are lower than Phase A. Of public use restrictions, both zones will remain in an industrial fire precaution level of, what is that, I or 1? I'm gonna say it's a 1, I don't know. When fire danger is moderate, it means that fires can start from most accidental causes, but number of fire starts are usually low. If a fire does start in an open, dry grassland, it will burn and spread quickly on windy days. Most wood fires will spread slowly to moderately. Average fire intensity will be moderate, except in heavy concentrations of fuel, which may burn hot. Under Phase A of public use restrictions, the following are prohibited on all National Forest lands, system lands within the Malheur National Forest in the state of Oregon. Smoking except within an enclosed vehicle or building, a developed recreation site, or while stopped in an area at least 3 feet in diameter and cleared of all flammable materials. Operating a chainsaw between the hours of 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. Operating or using any internal or external combustion engine without a spark arrestor device. And possesses or use a vehicle off National Forest System roads. So there's no campfire restrictions. Which would probably be, for most people, the biggest interest there while out recreating. So there's that. A letter from Prairie City Ranger District on timber sales. And a letter from the Blues Intergovernmental Council members. So this is a kind of it went hand in hand with the public meeting at the community center last week. Wherein it was discussed about travel management and wilderness. And in this letter, they're basically reiterating that the proposed Blues Intergovernmental Council member plan forest plan does not include any travel management or expansion of wilderness areas. So this is from Ann Neese, the forest supervisor in Mount Here National Forest. They felt it necessary to send this letter out to reiterate their position and make sure everybody understood those conditions. Then a correspondence letter from Barbara Kennedy to Sheriff Jenkins in regards to OWRD staff personnel accessing private property, wherein she was told by employees that they could give themselves authority or the commission could give them authority. And she consulted with the sheriff on if whether or not that was correct. I'm not sure the exact statutory authority that they have, but I know in some other agencies and whatnot, and functions that with notice, government entities can have access. So I don't know for sure. I can't say yes or no. In this letter, we had previously had a conversation, and she states that I had told her that they couldn't do that. I don't recall making that statement. Not gonna say whether I did or I didn't, but knowing that other agencies with notice can have access, I can't say a yes or no to that 100%. And that's all I have for correspondence. Any correspondence you'd like to have added to the record, Commissioner Frank?
No, sir.
We still got a couple of minutes, so clear off what we can on the agenda before going back to the supplemental budget hearing. Meeting schedule, everything is on track for the remainder of this month. Next county court session will be August 20th. And then in September 3rd and 17th. Now, was the 3rd, that's Fair Week. Was there, can't remember, did we discuss any potential conflicts with county court on Fair Week in the past?
I don't know if we've discussed it, but I'm willing to bet there will be.
Okay, so we may have to make that decision then at the next county court session on scheduling for the September 3rd court session. Other scheduling, other meetings, like as I'd mentioned earlier, county court does have a work session scheduled for next Thursday, August 14th, for economic development discussions. And just a working session to hear and consider directions and priorities and the court can establish before seeking another contractor or going in a different direction altogether, whatever that may look like.
What time is that meeting?
10 o'clock, 10 a.m. Any other meetings you'd like to have on the record?
Oh, there. Not any public meetings. We rescheduled our Natural Resource Advisory Committee meeting, which is typically the first Tuesday of the month, which conflicted with the OWRD public comment. We rescheduled it to August 19th, which is a Tuesday at 6 p.m.
August 19th at what time?
6 p.m.
Canceled tonight,
Last night's.
last month. Yeah.
And that's the only public meeting I can think of between now and then.
Okay, so that kind of fills up the time and we'll move back to new business item for a supplemental budget hearing at noon. Resolution 2025-17, supplemental budget and making appropriations to Fair Fund number 252. wait for a few seconds until the clock strikes 12 here. All right. It is now 12 p.m. and Harney County Court shall recess and move into public hearing for supplemental budget hearing in regards to the Harney County Fair Fund number 252. With the rule of the 10% rule, so to speak, that any funds or any expenditures under 10% can be expended without doing a supplemental budget. Anything that expenditures that are expected to be in excess of 10% of budgeted expenditures has to be a supplemental budget to authorize those expenditures. The fair received $150,000 grant that wasn't anticipated at the time of budgeting. And in order to appropriate those funds, we are here for supplementary budget hearing. So at this time, I would open the floor to any public comment. Anyone in the room?
Well, one question, I thought the original, money that, Representative Owens acquired for the fair board and the new, building. I thought a portion of that money was supposed to go to bathroom improvements.
Infrastructure, yes, there was one of those blocks of money, one of those awards that was for existing infrastructure. This was obviously another grant source or opportunity between Oregon Department of Human Services is where the money comes from.
Well, were those improvements made? Was that original funding from the legislature?
No, this was in regards to pipes freezing last year at the restrooms, and then having to completely remodel them. So it was not anticipated, it was outside of the event center expansion and upgrades.
Mhm.
And these funds will go into the fair fund itself, not into the event center fund. So that's where we're exceeding the 10%. If it was the event center fund, which has I think $4 million worth of budgeted expenditures, it would be well under that 10%, but it's going into the regular fair fund, so.
Was there something in this grant that referenced bathrooms specifically? Because I didn't see that.
I think it did. I don't see a specific either. The maximum not to exceed amount payable to recipient under this agreement, which includes allowable expenses of $150,000 from OGHS, will not disperse grant to recipient in excess of an event conflict. The agreement consists of this. See, budget. Well, I don't see it mentioned here. And I don't even see in the grant agreement from ODHS. A real specific use.
No, and if I remember correctly, it's through OREM and for capital outlay, probably regarding resiliency, emergency resiliency, because that's our emergency hub, I thought was what it pertained to.
I don't know. I can't say 100%. It is going into capital outlay, so it would go in, it would be expenditures for facilities or capital projects.
Are these guys voted?
Yes, at lunchtime, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any of the documentation I was provided doesn't show that, or doesn't identify a specific use. It'll go into, state revenue source, OREM grant number 186015. And then capital outlay line just has the same description on it, so it's not for any, it doesn't identify a specific purpose. But coming from OREM, Oregon. What's the R stand for?
Resiliency.
Resiliency. Emergency management, that would make sense then. I thought it was tied together with the bathroom remodel, but
That acronym might seem confusing because there's also the Oregon Emergency Management
yeah.
Agency, which begs the question, are they doing both?
I don't see anybody online with any questions or comments either. I guess the gist of it is though, is we received $150,000. We can get clarification on what it's gonna be spent on. But we received $150,000 from OREM. And in order to expend it, we have to appropriate it. So it will be appropriated in Fund 252 under capital outlay.
Well, I would move to approve resolution 2025-17 in the matter of adopting a supplemental budget and making appropriations to Fair Fund 252.
A motion's been made, or I'll second that motion. And a motion has been made and seconded to approve resolution 2025-17 in the matter of adopting a supplemental budget and making appropriations to Fair Fund 252. in the amount of an increase of $150,000 to capital outlay. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And no opposed, motion carries.
So will that be specified then for restrooms?
Why would it be?
No, I might be, to be honest with you, I might be putting two things together in my mind. We'll find out the exact use of what it is and bring it back to the next county court. All right, and that brings us to court updates. Commissioner Doro is not present. Commissioner Frank, updates?
I plan on going back to Washington DC in the beginning of September to work with National Association of Counties and meet with our federal partners to discuss payment in lieu of taxes, funding, the need for the permanence of that funding and possibly some reform. So if anyone has ideas between now and then, let me know. I met with the Burns District BLM manager yesterday to express our concern over their canceled wild horse gathers that have been canceled because of pending litigation, and offered our support in any way that we can help legislatively, or if we can lobby to our federal partners, because every time they plan to gather, this happens, and special interest groups file injunctions or litigate, and it stops it. And in the two particular herd management areas that they had proposed gathers for, I was under the impression one of them was 250% over its herd management limit, but they're actually about 10 times their herd management limits. And so they are very frustrated as well, because they were ready to have those gathers done, and it's doing a disservice to our landscape and our county. So I will probably reach out to Vince and Merkley Wyden and apprise them of the situation, see if they can give any help. We already talked about workforce, the community-based water planning process that has been a 10-year process that developed surface water plan, a groundwater plan, and an integrated water plan, had their final consensus meeting it was on Monday evening. And I think they came up with a workable plan. As Judge Hart mentioned, it is frustrating that I don't know if they required us to make a plan, but we had to make a plan. They give us funding to make a plan. And then they didn't even wait for their rulemaking process for us to complete our plan. And I really appreciate the work the community put into it. However, I was frustrated at the final consensus event. Out of maybe 15 people in the room and online, there were 0 irrigators and water users present. There was one domestic well landowner, and I'd say 10 of the 15 were agency people. And only about 3 of the 15 were from Harney County. So that was
the final consensus vote on the.
It was the final consensus vote, and while I find that lack of local participation in that one event disheartening, they had way more participation in the other consensus events for each individual plan. And the plan as is presented was worked on by local people. But I mean, you can't have a 10-year process like that where people aren't paid to be there and expect consistent participation.
Yeah, I remember when it first started for the groundwater portion of it, and the requirements that individuals had to maintain attendance in order to be considered eligible to vote. Like you say, people have jobs and lives, and it's hard to make every one of those meetings. So I thought that was a little high bar.
I agree. But there's some good things in that plan, and it's available on the Harney County Watershed Council website as far as some others, and now we are moving into the implementation phase. So actually trying to get some project work done, and we're gonna have Harney County Watershed Council and High Desert Partnership lead that effort. There will probably be a change in the membership of the collaborative because it will be focused more on groups that actually do work, which is it's gonna cause some problems down the road, but we'll address that when we get to it. I expressed some interest in serving on the NACO Public Lands Steering Committee because public lands are 3/4 of our county, and just found out I got appointed to that.
Is that part of the, what do they call it, the WEIR or WER or whatever, the Western,
Western,
West,
I'm unclear on
remember what that acronym stand?
Western Interstate Region or something. Derek DeGroot's the president of that now.
So
Yeah, I don't know what exactly they do.
that, I mean, this, public lands NACO group that you're talking about, you don't know if that's part of the WER or not.
I thought the WER was a separate organization from NACO, but I'm unsure.
Yeah, I think I thought it was a subcommittee of. I could be wrong. Anyway, we'll
There's too
find out.
many stinking committees.
Yeah,
I wish I would have known that this wild horse issue, it should have been on my radar prior to submitting resolutions to NACO, because if the NACO steering committees approve them, then they use their power and their lobbying to work in Congress in DC. And I just forgot for a second what a hardship wild horse mismanagement is on the Western United States. And I wish we could have got a resolution in about that. A quick fair update. When the dust started to settle after they were behind schedule from the flooding, and they redid their schedule to try and meet our expectations of minimums that we needed to have a fair event there, according to that schedule, they are ahead of schedule on that. And some of the expectations we have is that all of the uprights will be up, the lean-to will have a roof on it, and they're gonna have decent footing in it. They're gonna have, at the very least, temporary spots for the wash racks for the animals, but they're ahead of schedule to get to where they need to be. The fair board and the construction group and the youth livestock committee have worked pretty hard at figuring out how they can make fair work with possibly temporary electricity, possibly temporary plumbing. And they have plans for it, and it's all going as planned. There was a work session between the fair board and the livestock committee last week, where they did a bunch of brainstorming on how to lay out their pens, and they worked together and had a real constructive 2-hour meeting, and it was cool to see them figuring out how to make it work together. So I am optimistic that if the construction company stays on schedule, we already have meetings planned with the fire marshal, and we'll have to take care of that before we can get a temporary occupancy through our building department. But to my knowledge, we are meeting all the expectations that were set forth by the fire marshal and the building department a month or so ago. So it will be a different fair, but it'll be all right. Did we ever hear back from, we had veteran services on the agenda for the last meeting, and I believe we've had it on there again this year without an update. And I was just wondering if there was any update on when we might hear from them.
we'll try and schedule them in for the next one. They had a family emergency on the last one, that's why he was a no-show.
Have we heard any more from the Kleinschmidt group that did the flood mitigation study for us to see if they'd be interested? I was in the minutes, it talked about we were going to follow up with them, and I think Brandon McMullen said he might reach out to him, and I just didn't know if you heard it.
I haven't heard anything. I will check with Brandon and see what he's heard, if anything.
Is there any news on the ambulance contract, that APA?
Again, our portion of it is done, so whatever, if they needed to do with it, I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
If they needed to get it approved at the state level, I don't know where that's at. I didn't, as far as I was concerned or knew, it was approved and it was in place. They sent it to us and we approved it and sent it back to them.
Okay, that was more than I needed to be in terms of talking, not done.
Just for clarity, the WIR is the Western Interstate Region and it's an affiliate organization of NACO. But it focuses on Western states issues. Association of counties and interstates include public lands issues, use of conservation, community stability, and economic development, and the promotion of the traditional Western way of life. I don't have a whole lot. We had our first meeting with the contractor yesterday for the jail project, for the design build, just the introductory meeting. We still gotta, develop a contract, get the contract signed and then, move into planning, design. So I think what I asked them to do, much like the Fair Event Center facility, as you give updates on it, that we may have them come in initially, especially when they come up with a design drawing or anything with this is what they, maybe that might be down the road a little bit, but initially and then down the road, maybe periodically have them zoom in with updates or something. But otherwise, I asked them if they would just be able to provide me with a monthly update of where things are at. I can brief the court on that.
This early in the process, I would guess that the timeline would be real rough, but do you have an idea of when work may be completed?
Absolutely not.
No.
To be honest, I think the most economical idea is to build on the existing footprint. If there's any portion of the existing facility that can be repurposed for other uses, or if it's gonna be a total tear down, I don't know at this point. But I think the most economic, we only have $5.5 million of county funds and $3 million, as I mentioned earlier, from OJD for court-related services that we can incorporate into some aspects of the jail. And with that said, it's how much are we gonna get for that amount of money? And I think when you look at court access, having to transition people from court to correctional facility and back of, one way or the other. I think we're better off with what we have to build on the existing footprint. I understand there was some concern in the meeting yesterday about the downtime from when this facility would have to be closed and people that are incarcerated, whether they're on hold for trial or serving sentences, would have to be shifted to Grant County and the cost or expense of doing that. But I, at this point, don't have any idea how long it would be down for, how long they would have to do that. So pretty early on.
One of my concerns as we started kind of moving in that direction, because it makes the most sense with the funds that we have, but especially when it became apparent we were going to change direction with economic development, is I just thought, what if we get some real gunslinger of an economic development department and they drum up $10 million for us when we've already committed and have gone down the road of just a jail, but now we could do the Justice Center. But it sounds like they might have time to do that if they are so inclined. They're real ambitious.
They, as in,
The direction we take with economic development.
you know, that'd be great, and I don't. We've let this contract for design. And that's all we're really at this point, design build. The whole Justice Center concept and everything is great. I mean, I love it. Would love to see that building used for that and incorporate the jail on that lot, but. I would estimate based on past estimates that we've gotten and current day numbers, the Justice Center facility itself is probably at least a $20 million project. If not more. And that's not even including the jail itself. But if we go that route over there and decide to build the jail over there in hopes of that Justice Center project, then I can imagine that the jail itself is gonna come in with higher costs as well, more than what we have. The ideal situation would be to design and build a facility that's scalable for growth. If we do ever, by whatever chance experience economic growth and housing growth and everything else in Harney County. To facilitate that future population increase of growth. But I think at this point, we just kind of have to look at what we have available to us. And build with that in mind. Otherwise we sit with a facility that still has those potential liabilities for another however long. And then if we don't, I mean, these funds that are reauthorized for the OJD funds, those are ARPA funds, and those will have to be expended by, I think, the end of 27. Or we'll lose them all together, so then we're back to just $5.5 million. And it's, one of the other hurdles that we come across in trying to find funds for this project is that, jails are just not socially acceptable in our current, political environment. There's no money for it. And the Justice Center goes right along hand in hand with it, really. Criminal justice system is just, people don't want it until it affects them personally. So. I neglected. It's kind of moot point maybe now, but I neglected to close the public hearing for the supplemental budget and then reconvene county courts. We're into it already, but just for the record, that should have been, the public hearing should have been adjourned and then reconvened. Holly's not here to keep me straight. So that's all I really have. I don't, it's just day-to-day business on things. If there be nothing else, court shall stand adjourned.
Will Holly be back tomorrow?
I hope so.